So we are just below the middle of the page, Memvov. The line begins with the word ve-ichur. When we went off into a mochin, a means to understand the Ayin of sphirot hagluyos and versus sphirot hagnuzos. Sphirot hagnuzos are similar to the chochmah hane'elamim, and the sphirot hagluyos are similar to chochmah hagluyos. And the principal difference, as we pointed out, both in the mochin and now in the nimshal, that in sphirot hagnuzos or the chochmah hane'elamim, there is no particular order to their forthcoming, their expression, because they're all drawn from the nefesh, they're all expressing the nefesh directly. There is not one koyach being a basis for the next koyach. The basis for all koyachs is the nefesh. Whereas in koyachs hagluyim, that's exactly what happens. That the mochin is the basis for midot. And the similar Indians that we are now back in the Maila as sphirot hagluyos. That sphirot hagluyos come in a certain order of kedim or ve-ichur. By necessity, there will be that which has to come first, and that which comes after. The tchilo, we're at first in the beginning, hu ham shochas, who is galas ha-mochin. This is where the mochin are drawn from the hidden, from the higher kochas, and his galas ha-mochin, the mochin have to come be gilus. What is the union for his galas ha-mochin? Hainu atzilus b'chinas chochmah binah. This refers to, and it comes in the form of the atzilus, of the emanation, of the binah of chochmah binah. What is the binah of chochmah binah? Just like the binah of mochin. It is the identifiable element, the presence of the identifiable element. This is the name of mochin. Chochmah binah. Chochmah binah ne'etzal zoh, and then from chochmah binah there is the emanation and the draw of zoh. Zoh is zeir ampin, which means essentially the midot of chesed and gvura and tiferes. So zoh is drawn from chochmah binah, not from that where chochmah binah itself are drawn from, the keser, the rotzah, but it's drawn from chochmah binah. The davka, and only the achar shemismaid hoyer the chochmah binah, only after that the oyer, that the impression and the effect of the chochmah binah, only when the effect of chochmah binah is nismayis, is reduced and is no longer in full force, only then ne'etzal b'china zoh, then first emanates the b'china of zoh, the aspect of zoh, of midot, or k'mesha kosev b'mochin, as is described elsewhere. Because this entire phenomenon, that chochmah binah mochin come first, and zoh comes after, only after chochmah binah, the oil of chochmah binah is kind of contained and reduced. This entire phenomenon is due to the fact it is due to the fact that these sphirot are drawn and they receive impetus and inspiration one from the other. Chochmah binah inspires the inner of the midot. That memela, and therefore it follows that the hechrach, it's imperative that there should be an order in the manner in which they are drawn, because they're all dependent upon each other. I hope it's a very subtle thing, but extremely clear and important thing. So again, I'm going to just give us a little means of relating to it. Back to our table. No matter how we speak of a table, like we said, the table really is much more than the practical use of it. Nonetheless, especially when you talk about a special table, a dining room table, a table with certain flourish. That is preceded by there being a dining room. You would not think of a dining room table when all you have is a dining room.
To remain on this call, press 1.
And the net doesn't fit, does not accommodate a dining room table. Conceptually, it doesn't fit there, not physically. It's out of kilter. When you have a dining room, that elicits a special table would express what this room is about. So the dining room table is a result, and is amshocha, is an expression of the dining room itself. The similar Ayin is in koiches hanefesh in general, of midot and seichel. You cannot have mercy and affection for someone without first recognizing that there is a certain reality, certain principle reality to life in general. This is the mochin. This means that they nimshach one from the other, and one is the source of the other. And this is why they have to come in a certain order. Okay, continue.
Sorry. This now, the dining room table, and this compassion, was separate or just to strengthen the point that there's a seder? We had already mochin and then midot. This is just to strengthen that?
They're just strengthening to clarify, because we are saying it again. So, again, bringing out that which these words contain. Nothing new really in this. But my experience is that it's worthwhile step to always refresh it. Otherwise, we get bogged down with words and we come back with questions that don't represent what we're learning. There's nobody there, so it can't cut out. Maybe to come back in there.
We'll call back in, okay? There's no one there, but we're going to call back into the conference.
Disconnected.
Disconnect.
Connected to mobile device.
Previously, we used the muscle of the table in the dining room before the table was even there, for the ve-ichur of the ve-ichur, which was referring to the sphirot.
Yeah.
And now we're using the same muscle for the sphirot after the tzimtzum.
Yeah.
So, just wondering, it's a good muscle for both of these cases?
Yeah, different levels. That's like mochin exists on knuzis and meguyis. And we have to identify the difference with our... Yeah. For the value of it. Everyone loves their children. You speak to a parent and says, I love them to pieces. If he needs something, I'll jump up first to go and get it for him. Love him to pieces. This is where the midot precede the seichel. You're projecting your love to the kid. You don't. This is not a real experience of love. Real experience of love is when the kid is a reality in your seichel. And you have respect for him. And you want to help him develop. Not just to be your kid, but to be an individual in his own right. There's an expression, let him make his own mistakes. Why? Because, of course, he's not going to let him walk into the puddle or in the sea, but to look for the way to get someplace is a healthy thing. And you want him to be aware that he has the capacity and he has the responsibility to look for things and find them. Much more to speak about it, just a moment. Okay, again, the line begins Avol. About 10 lines on the bottom. Avol is as far as Agnuzos with Ne'alomim Boir inside. But there's as far as Agnuzos. The concealed, the contained as spheres that are contained and concealed within the Oir inside. Although again we said these are the level called as spheres, but they are contained in the Oir inside. Einam nimshachim umekablim zeh mizeh. They are not drawn, they do not receive impetus one from the other. Kiyim, rather, kol as spheres nimshachim, all the as spheres, all the 10, each one of the 10 as spheres is drawn mebechinas asmus eirin soy baruhu, from the bechina of asmus eirin soy. This is a powerful expression, mebechinas asmus eirin soy baruhu, which means that each one of these spheres is a representative of the bechina of asmus eirin soy. Vim yiye his galos as spheres, and therefore coming back now to the beginning of this ois. If there should be his galos as spheres or atzmiyim, k'moy shehein. Now the as spheres or atzmiyim, these essential as spheres, the way they are contained in atzmus inside, should come forth, k'moy shehein, as they are unto themselves. Then Yiye is galus kulam ki echod. Then all of them will come forth together ki echod as one. The kulam, then on top of the kulam, and all of them will be b'bchinas toikev ho'er ve'agil. Will have the quality of toikev ho'er, of the power, toikev, the insistence of this oir ve'agilu, and gilu, each one in his own way. Ve'eifel, in a manner that then they would not at all contain the ability, this union of oir pnimi, b'chinas oir pnimi. What is oir pnimi? The Rebbe explains. B'chinas islapshus oires b'kelim, in a manner where the oires can be mislabish in kelim. Oil pnimi. So the Rebbe says that would be hislapshus oilis b'kelim. What is the requirement, the prerequisite in the oil that it should be able to be contained and expressed in kelim? And that is the distinction between oir pnimi, oir makif, or on the other side, חיצוני, oil pnimi. In order to express an oil in kelim, the oil has to have a clear demarcation, a clear self-identity. Said many times, this water flowing in a clear lake, or water coming from a spring, this water that's coming from the spring is a constant flow, resulting in a lake, whatever it is, with no particular design as to what this water is about. It is simply a statement. There is water under the ground, and the water is in the form of pressure, and therefore is pressed out from its original abode, and it comes out. So that if this water that comes out from underneath the ground, and as we said, underneath the ground the water is under great pressure. This is why it gets pushed out. If it should come forth with the same impetus, the same pressure as it is on the ground, it would be totally useless in a practical sense. What then has to happen? When this water comes out from under the ground due to the pressure, but it comes in a contained manner so that you can actually capture it in a cup. If you're able to capture it in a cup, you're giving the water a completely different identity, a different definition. This is not water that exists under the ground. This water has a designation, has a function. The function is to take it in a cup and able to drink it. That has to be completely redefined from the way it is under the ground. But it is in abundance, and if it should come forth the way it is on the ground, it would be completely uncontainable. One second, and that would mean that it's not oil pnimi, which means it does not have a designated function. It's just water unto itself. When it comes in a contained manner, then it allows for a designation of its function. This is called oil pnimi. If it should come forth the way it is in its original state, in its source, would come out the beginner's toikev hoir ve'agil. In our moshel would come forth, the beginner's toikev would come forth with the force of water rather than the supply of water. We all know that if there is a very strong stream from a faucet, but it's a very strong stream, you cannot fill a cup of water with it. It comes in and jumps right out. It doesn't qualify as a functioning, designated stream. Yes.
This was to this was where the water was a mashal for the way koiches ne'lamim become koiches gilui. Yeah. Okay, and then it might be an aside point, but we were also saying that the keli, the cup itself was not what created the geder, the purpose, that within the ore itself, within the water itself, there was this element of function, of supply.
The water itself has the element of function, namely that this is water aimed at supplying, at giving a person the ability to drink. And in order to do that, it has to be able to be contained to fit into a cake. So a person cannot drink without a cake.
And that's why we said it needs to have a clear demarcation and self-identity.
Right.
So
what is this water amount?
Yeah, but I guess maybe it's a superficial view. You think of the cup imposing a limit or breaking away some of the water, so now it becomes useful. But it seems like maybe we're saying something deeper than that, right?
Right. In order to go into the cup, the water already has to have that element within itself.
Already, while it's in a state of ligvul, kind of.
Right.
Okay.
It comes from the ligvul in a contained manner, because it aims at being contained and being a pnimit from coming to a cave.
This that it comes in a contained manner, from a lower perspective, it seems like that's imposed on it, that it's limited by the cup or the pipe. But we're saying that inherently in the ore is a kind of willingness or ability to.
No, it is due to the mochin. The mochin identify the value and the function of the cake, of the water.
The mochin is like the keli almost?
No, it's not the keli. It's not the keli at all. The mochin provide a value, a presence for this water.
And that brings out the demarcations or the function.
That brings the water out in a contained manner. There's a story of Maram in Prague. That Maram in Prague created a goylem. I'm sure everybody heard of the goylem. So this goylem was the quintessential goylem. The Gemaral had instructed at home they should never ask the goylem to do anything, because if you ask him and you don't know how to ask him in a proper way, it's just going to be without limit. So one time, Erev Shabbos, they needed water and they did not have the buckets, the pails full. So the Rebbetzin asked the goylem to go and fetch some water. And he, of course, went at great speed, and he brought water. And he brought one pail and emptied it into the barrel, another pail, and he was running back and forth, emptying the pails into the barrel, and the barrel went overflow, and the whole house was flooded with water. And he didn't even know that he has to stop at this point. He just continued to fetch water. Until Maral came and says, and he was able to stop. Because he was a goyler. He did not have the mochin to understand why was he told to bring the water? What's behind it? He was told to bring water, so he brings water. This is it for this morning.